Hello. I think today's discussion is very relevant to the American scene today. I'm going to talk about how you can go from market liberal to fascist in two easy steps. And of course, by market liberal, I mean liberal in the classic sense, someone who's a strong believer in the market. The market liberal is called liberal because they believe that they're all about liberty or freedom. The current right wing movement that has appropriated the name libertarian from its original users, or, hard left anarchists like me, those libertarians use the name because they say the market means liberty. So these libertarians are like kind of trying to return to the roots of the market liberal concept. They hold free markets mean free people. Now, this notion is both logically incoherent and dishonest. The notion of a free market, in particular, is incoherent and dishonest. It's incoherent because there's no such thing as a free market. In the same sense as there's no such thing as a rainy day without precipitation, it just is a meaningless concept. By free, it appears the market liberal means free of government regulations. But markets only exist with government regulation. Rules of property, contract, rules that are enforced by courts or other coercive powers are required at a bare minimum. It's impossible to have a market without at least some regulation. And there's actually quite a bit. None of this regulation comes from nature or just the way things are. They come from conscious political, or perhaps not so conscious, but they come from political acts, social political acts. So when someone says they want a market free of government regulation, all they really mean is free of regulation they don't like, but with all the regulations they do like in place. Now, it's dishonest in that way because there's no such thing as a free market, so it's dishonest to say there is. But it's also dishonest in another way, the way the Wizard of Oz was dishonest when he said, "Don't look behind the curtain. Ignore that man behind the curtain." Well, in the same way, the market ideology wants you to look at the market exchange. Look at the market, look at the market as a fundamental fact. But before we get to exchanging things, we have to own things. I can't sell you something unless I own it. You can't buy something unless you own something to exchange with me, money or something that I will take in barter. The basic fact in market ideology is not the market at all, but the fact of ownership. The fact that we use the coercive power of the state to define who controls things or who owns them. Okay, well, that's all just background. What are the two easy steps to go from someone who believes he's supporting freedom, the market liberal, to fascism? Because it's clear those steps have been easily taken by several people in today's world. First, the first step is that, in fact, the market doesn't work as advertised. That is, it's not really so great for everybody. It isn't so very liberating at all for everybody. It's great for owners. After all, it is really all about ownership, property, right? But it's not so great for all the rest of us who are not owners. Those who are not owners, no matter how much the ideology is drummed into them, they notice this fact. They notice, hey, it's not so great for me. So the defenders of the market have to add something that may appear extraneous to market ideology, but really is needed to prop it up. This is the first step. The owners divide up the people who are not owners into different groups, and they treat one group better than the other, give them some advantages to convince that group that they are more like the owners than those other folks, the unwashed, unwanted, bottom of the heap. In the United States, this has taken the form that I call "at least I'm white," the "at least I'm white" trick. But you see, it's not enough to have these advantages because you're white or because you're part of some other group. Whether these advantages are real or simply imagined, it's not enough to have advantages. You have to believe you deserve those advantages. Otherwise, you feel like a jerk. So not only do you get a little bit of a privilege, but you have to believe you deserve it. And they don't. So at least I'm white, so I am really more like the bosses than those others over there. And maybe I can be a boss someday too. Maybe I can own things too. That was the first step, but the second step follows. And here's the next step. The "at least I'm white" con job begins to wear thin. Those who are not owners, but who have been given some advantages over the rest of the non-owners, they begin to notice that, well, even with those little advantages they get, the market is not really doing that much for them. It's not that liberating. Life is just plain hard. First to starve, first to die, first in line for that pie in the sky, last in line when the bread shares out for the workers working while the bosses are about. Okay, so life is just plain hard. One way to react to that, one way to go, is to realize the whole "at least I'm white" story is a trick. But there's another way to go, and that's the fascist way. You say, the problem must be that those bosses betrayed us and joined forces with the great unwashed them. So we have this weird notion that the ruling class are in cahoots with the underclass, that they've joined with those who are lower, who do not deserve the success and freedom of this wonderful, magical market. The problem with the market isn't the market, the problem is they are allowed in. It becomes an us against them world. And now you have a fascist. Thanks.